So my name is Breg Horemans. I'm part of the TAAT collective, and we're here at the Lively Assemble, which is a project that we did together with the students from the University of the Arts London, Wimbledon College. And I'm presenting to you my colleague, Gert-Jan.
I'm Gert-Jan, Stam. I'm also part of the TAAT collective who initiated the Lively Assemble here for the PQ23.
Just as a kind of general note on the space, so we invited 6 students from UAL, and we, by curator Andrew Filmer, we were granted this space. And basically the only spatial sort of restriction that we had is to work with these white pedestals. And the idea is that every student actually works with an other than human entity, collaborating with them, negotiating their relationship. And by doing a series of daily rituals, they basically renegotiated their relationship into an artifact or into a performative gesture or performative installation.
And in the background, we try to put things a little bit in context. So what we work on as TAAT is to see how we can have a multi-species practice, how we can humans and more than humans together in co-creating, in collaborating, in organizing and communicating with each other.
Yeah.
So to put that in context here for the Lively Assembly, we have some background information on the projects, a lot of the research that the students did.
And maybe just as a little detail, so this is a screen recording of our Live Agora space, which is an online environment that we developed to basically curate and shape learning processes, collective learning processes together with groups of people. So we had one workshop week in London with the students, and then the weeks after we worked in this online environment that is both used as a dissemination place, but also as a place for sharing different presentations and also a part of the exhibition.
Yeah. I'm Sophia New, and I am the course leader of the 2 MAs that the students partake in. One is called MA Performance Theatre Making, the other one's called MA Performance Politics and Social Justice. So I'm accompanying the students who've been on this journey with TAAT for the last 5 weeks.
Yes. And can you give us a little bit of background of how we, in our dialogue, how we conceptualized this idea and what that made it interesting for you and you think for the students?
So at the beginning of this, we decided to have a kind of symposium around sighted work and what that really means. And that's where we started to kind of look at conceptually how we're reconsidering what sight can be. And that was really important to hear about your work, about the shift also from sighted to site-specific to also kind of regenerative practices that you're involving. And this kind of a day that opened up to all the students at Wimbledon was an important kind of starting point of how we could begin to find out about different types of practices. And then this ongoing dialogue that you've had on a kind of weekly basis of really checking in and following up, and this very important kind of way of gathering the material together. And then a lot of things have come together in the last week, being here intensively, being part of discussions and making decisions together. So I think it's important to recognize that many of these students aren't coming from a kind of fine art or even necessarily from a kind of sonography background. So this is an opportunity to really think about how can we think about performativity in a different way? How can we think about performativity in relationship to non-human others, and to have this context, which is very exciting, to know that you're going to be involved in a context such as this, to really represent your work and brings it up into another kind of level of experience. So it's a huge learning curve to know that you're going to get to represent your work within a kind of context like this. And also to really find out, as a kind of artist maker, where are my kind of specific questions? How do I find about how I realize an idea? How do I contextualize that idea? And how do I think about an audience beyond the ideas that I've set up for myself?
Can you say something about how you would see this, how this Lively Assembly functions within PQ as a 4-year event on sonography?
I get the impression that it's a very different kind of proposal in a way, not really thinking about representing things within a traditional setup about what sonography is, but really thinking of it in a much kind of broader kind of scope. Also, a lot of what you've been doing is looking at really processes, but then how do you actually share processes of investigation in a context such as this? Actually, just how a really diverse set of people can create an atmosphere of respect, collegiality, but also listening I actually think that was really important, that people were beginning to listen to each other, that were actively kind of seeking that out from one another, and that allowing you to adapt or change what it is that you're doing. So I would say that that's an important part of working in this way, is to really consider, how do I listen? How do I listen to other beings? How do I listen to the environment? How do I listen to the context? And maybe even now, in this context, how do I listen to what other people have to say about the work? If you could show this work in another context, what would interest you to show it within?
I think the one thing that we really ran into here was the clear sort of rule of not being able to bring plants and natural elements, and to not being able to have any negotiation about that. I think is really a missed opportunity for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So I think PQ is a very nice setting of presenting this kind of work, and it makes a lot of sense, because I think it's important that within the theater world we think about these things. But generally I would say, if there would be an opening to at least have it as a negotiation, I think that would be very interesting to do. A place where it would work is also not interesting.
Yeah.
A place where we could just is not interesting. But a place where there would be enough friction to make it a constructive conversation, or even a difficult conversation, I think that would be really tempting.